All right, here we go. I see myself on, so we're going to start. The July 13th, 2022 meeting of the West Springfield Conservation Commission is hereby called to order at 6:04. Welcome to this regularly scheduled meeting of the West Springfield Conservation Commission. My name is Kevin Cote, chairperson. I'll be presiding over the meeting tonight. In accordance with MGL Chapter 30A, I must announce anyone intending to tape the meeting must identify themselves to the clerk and provide their name and address for the record. The Conservation Commission is videotaping tonight's meeting, and it will be shown live on cable access television and other computer application and social media platforms. We inform those present that any document that is to be considered or discussed must be made part of the record of the meeting, and an original or a copy should be submitted to the committee before there will be any discussion regarding those documents. That would include photos, plans, drawings, letters, and written materials. I want to thank everyone for taking the time to attend. I'm going to give each commission member an opportunity to identify themselves for the public in the record, starting with Melissa.
Melissa Henson.
John Goddard.
Mark Noonan, Conservation Agent.
Again, I'm Kevin Cote, the chair. Procedures will be following during the meeting tonight. Project reps will make their presentation. Members of the commission and our staff will ask questions of the project proponents, and then questions will be taken from the general public in attendance. We only ask that you come to the podium, ask to be recognized by the chair, and state your name and address for the record before you speak. All right, so with that out of the way, let's move to the agenda. Commissioners, have you had a chance to review the agenda, and is there a motion to accept?
Motion to accept the agenda is written.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Danny, you good with the agenda? Are you good with the agenda, Danny? I'm good. All right, we'll take that as an aye vote. All right, we'll move to public participation. Is there anyone here to talk about something that is not already on the agenda? I don't think so. You're all here for 31, okay. In that case, let's take our agenda in the order that it was written now that we have all of our members here, and we'll start with the enforcement on 31 Massasoit Ave, building a retaining wall, landscaping and tree removal within riverfront of Schoolhouse Brook without a permit. All right, so Mark, do you want to introduce what's going on here?
I'll start it off because I was away, but the building inspector was notified that there was work going on without a permit. He knew that it was in Riverfront because he lived through the same filings and stuff that Mr. Savonin had in front of the commission. And so he put a stop work order on it. I subsequently, when I did get back, talked to the owner and said they needed to install a silt fence, but the company, the landscape company, installed a silt fence, which improperly, they didn't dig it in, so it was useless. And the soil has gone down into drains, so one of the things I think I would add to the enforcement order is to have the drains looked at and pumped out at the owner's expense.
Got it. Okay. So that's the situation on 31 Massasoit Ave. Is there someone here that wants to talk about sort of what happened and what's going on?
Sure. I'm Attorney Vitaly Usenko. I'm here on behalf of the homeowner, Amir Slan Tasayev. It goes by Alan.
Okay.
So Mr. Tasayev had a few issues with his property. Soon after he purchased it, he was concerned about trees in his backyard that were really close to the house, that he's worried they would, if in a strong wind, they would fall on the house. So at first, he actually reached out to Parks and Recreation about getting those trees removed, and they told him that it's your property, your trees, you go ahead and remove them. So he hired contractors to do that. I'm not sure if those trees are the ones that are at issue here, because then subsequently he was contacted by Eversource, and they wanted to remove trees that were underneath the power lines. He has a high voltage line going across his property, and so they came and asked permission from him to remove those trees, and he gave them the permission, and they proceeded to remove the trees. But they left behind just a big mess of stumps, and so to clean it up, he had himself went to go remove the stumps and to build the retaining walls that his understanding was under the required height to require a permit. And he hired a professional landscaper to do that, so he was unaware of any requirements to get a permit. He kind of relied on the professionals he had hired to do the trees, on Eversource and on the landscaper. And so he understands now of these violations. He's willing to work with the commission to do what it takes to correct them. And so just kind of waiting on what the commission will require to resolve the issues there.
Okay. Is there a restoration plan being proposed at this point?
So all that's left is to plant vegetation. So the wall work has been done, and so all that's left is to plant either grass or whatever other vegetation the commission would require to stabilize the dirt there and keep it from washing over onto the road. The river is across the road, across the street from the property, so there's no flow into the river. It's just a matter of the soil washing out to the road. And so all that's left would be is just to plant the vegetation to keep the soil in place, and that should address that issue.
Okay. So we don't have a plan yet, but obviously still some work left to do. Mark, did you want to weigh in?
So, was your firm the firm that represented Mr. Savonin?
No.
No, okay. So, Mr. Savonin was required to, upon sale, get an affidavit from your client.
Did that happen?
I don't know if it happened. I don't have evidence of it.
Yeah,
So I think that would be one of the remedies. Get an
Yes.
affidavit on file.
We can do that. I think what happened was, if you'll remember, around the time my client purchased it, he used attorney Victor Gavoni to do
Yeah,
that. And
he
passed-
told me, yeah, he
And he
passed
passed
away.
away like the day before the closing. And so
Oh,
there
I
mu-
didn't
there-
realize that.
There
Okay.
must have been some breakdown there to get that done. I wasn't involved at that time. I was just contacted the last few weeks about this matter.
So
That's
I
fine.
was proposing that he stabilize the site with proper erosion control. I have a flyer of some suggestions that he could use.
Did you give him the flyer?
I don't know if I gave it, but I'll give it to him at this point. Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'll do it in a minute.
Okay. that's
So, and then I had asked him for a plan from the landscaper. And the landscaper, I still haven't seen a plan. So the landscaper should be able to produce a plan for the retaining walls. And then I think some type of natural vegetation along that slope, not, he wants to put arborvitae and grass in. In Savonin's original plan, which I'll give you a copy of, he shows the grass stopping at a different place than where the grass is presently. So I think some type of supplemental planning with a plan that they approve, we're good.
Okay.
That's what I would, end the affidavit, just saying that, yeah, he's aware of it for the future, and we can work together.
Okay.
One thing that's important, so when we issue an enforcement, it can act as a permit. So when we issue an enforcement order and say this has to get done, we're also looking to actually approve a work plan.
Okay.
And that's why the plan is important, because what we don't want to do is sit here and just say, go fix it, and then,
Yeah.
right, if there wasn't good, clear direction on how to get it done right in the
Correct.
first place, we don't, so we want to stop here and say, okay, we need a plan, what's going to happen, what controls will be in place as part of that plan, what plants are going into the site. We'd prefer to see something, native stuff that's going to help hold and stabilize the soil, not something that's invasive, things like, so details like that are important to get down on paper, and that way when, if it's the same landscaper that's going to go back and do the work, there's a plan that they say, this is what we'll do, and then we can say, okay, we're okay with that, and then once it's done, we can look back and say, okay, you did what you said you were going to do, now we're happy, enforcement over, and back in good graces.
Okay.
Commissioners, did you have any comments, or Melissa?
I have a couple questions.
Okay.
First of all, who was the contractor that he hired to remove the trees?
So he believes it was Arbor Tree in Springfield? He's not too,
If you can get that, I think, for future, just so we have it.
Okay.
If you can get that, that'd be great.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
because we may reach out to them and say, hey,
Okay.
So it's an actual tree company?
Yes.
Okay. The other question is, who's the landscaper?
GPM Landscaping? Yeah. Here, I'll pass this down. You can take a look.
they may need a lesson in how to install a silt fence, though.
I would, well, both of these, if these are both professional companies, should be familiar with wetland regulations.
That's what my client relied on. He thought that they would know, but I
But
understand,
he's
yeah.
ultimately
Yeah.
responsible, but,
So,
okay, go ahead, Mark.
no, so if everybody can observe, I don't know, it's gonna be hard for the home. But, so there's that area that's the paper street, which is Curtis Street. You're familiar that so I assume, he owns somewhat half of that. Someone cleared that. And it might be a compromise that, I'm sure he wants lawn in the back to have a plan, but we're gonna need a plan, like Kevin says. To maybe replant this area and the area that's kind of like below, in this area, below the retaining walls. But we need a plan for that.
Yep.
And then trade the backyard, basically. Savonin said he wasn't gonna go beyond that with the lawn. Well, the lawn clearly has gone up to the slope. So we would probably back off the slope, but, work with Mr. Stasev on,
Okay,
so
Alright.
he's comfortable, get him to sign the affidavit, record it.
okay. You want the affidavit recorded?
Yeah, it would be helpful.
Okay,
so,
yeah, we can do that.
And then go from that, if that's acceptable to everybody in the commission. But he definitely needs to stabilize it, seed it, whether he puts down blankets, which are on that, or some type of erosion control, that would be helpful.
Now, would the commission want to see the affidavit before it's recorded, or it doesn't really, as long as it matches what's in the,
It can match
Order.
what's in the order, so,
Okay.
It's just him acknowledging that
Yep.
he's aware.
okay,
So for future, we won't,
Yep.
we'll have a conversation before anything
Correct.
happens.
Are there additional questions, commissioners? Melissa?
Who did the wall?
the landscaper, GPM?
Okay, so they did everything?
Yes,
Yeah, so they probably owe him a plan, which I'm sure they didn't do.
yeah.
Yes. Okay.
John, Danny, anything to add? Conversation? Okay. So I think going from here, we would want to, I think we got the follow-ups, right? The affidavit, a plan that we can review and approve.
Yep.
And I think really that's where we go from here.
Sounds good.
Anything
Yeah,
else?
No, and then, so you just need to vote to ratify the enforcement with those amendments. I'll do it, and then I'll send it out to DEP and all of you, and hopefully everybody's on the same page. Timeline?
I need to follow up before we vote on. There was a mention of having the drains looked at and pumped. Did you want that put in this order?
It certainly should be looked at, if the commission so desires, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Who would be looking?
DPW.
Well, it would be, I guess we could have DPW look at it. If they see the issue, if there's an issue, then it's really up to Mr. Tsev to pump it out, because
Landscape.
I hire a
right,
private
yeah.
company to do it.
Yeah, I think maybe we could have them take a look and see if it's minor,
I'll
not a big
run it
deal.
by
But
the
if
town
it's
engineer.
significant and they're not gonna be getting back to those until next year, because those are pumped and cleaned annually, but that's based on normal amounts of sediment and debris getting into the system. Based on those photos, it looks like there was a significant rain event and quite a bit of soils moved off the property and down into those drains, so that could create an issue.
So I'll talk to the DPW and see if they'll look at them. If they see that it's significant, I'll get back, you know, we're gonna be awaiting a plan anyway. If he stabilizes the slope, it's gonna end his pain, hopefully, on that, you know, because you don't want more going in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And, you know, then we can work through it through the plan that you would approve.
Are these pictures from today or yesterday?
No, I have some from yesterday, but those aren't on this one. They're actually on my phone.
Because my question is what is the erosion from last night's storm that came through?
There were some that, so Mr. Sayev put in like a landscape edging, thinking that that would hold it, but clearly that's not adequate. And it overrode that, went onto the sidewalk and then into the street. It really needs to get, I mean, the landscaper should know why they installed something inadequate. It's really not his fault, but they should have known better. So.
Really,
Here,
yeah.
you can send it over to Commissioner Henson. The key is I just wanted to make sure you're not asking him to remove the walls, which is, you know, we're going forward, right?
Yeah, no, that's not.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure that there wasn't significant dirt that had moved from last night's storm into the drain or potentially into the brook.
Sooner there's grass established and the sooner he's got erosion control,
The
the
better it's gonna
better
be.
for him and all of us.
Well, we're supposed to have a storm tomorrow or tonight into tomorrow.
All right, so I'd be looking for a motion to ratify the enforcement order with the items that we discussed here. Once we have that approved, then we'd ask them to come back with a plan that we can then give the okay on.
And I just need a timeline. What are you giving him? 30 days? What do you want?
I mean, can we have, given the state of the situation, it'd be nice to be back here on the 27th in our next meeting and be looking at something. If that's not possible,
2
then
weeks.
2 weeks?
that's
Do you
2
think
weeks.
that's possible?
or we can look at the 10th.
Yes.
2 weeks?
Yeah. that
Okay.
should be fine.
So we'll revisit it in 2 weeks. We'll be looking for a plan at that point.
So again, what was the date and time?
Our next meeting is July 27th, Wednesday.
Wednesday, 7,
Six
26.
At 6
o'clock.
PM, same time,
Okay.
same place.
Do we want the landscaping company in here to be able to have them answer questions on their plan?
Are they the ones doing the plan? Do we know?
I'm not sure. I mean, the relationship has kind of soured recently, so I can't guarantee you can get them here, but.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be willing to do what we've done in the past, where we had a landscaper, we could send a letter to them saying, look, you need to read this thing about landscaping in wetland areas, and,
I guess we'll have a plan, whether
Yeah.
it's from the current landscaper or another one
Yeah.
to fix it, and we can ask the landscaper to come with the plan to explain it. We can do
appreciate that.
I think that would be sufficient. All right. Motion to ratify?
I move to ratify the enforcement order, and the items discussed.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank
See you in
you.
a couple weeks. Mark, do you want to briefly tell us what's going on at Allison Lane?
So I was called out to look at it. They're running ATV, well, they were digging in the backyard. And I'd been out there 2 years ago and there wasn't an issue, but now they're running ATV trails. But I realized that the trails are actually not solely on their property at 30, but are on the property of abutters at 55. Sorry, wrong
Got it.
file.
Okay, so this is a little more complicated.
Right, so I gotta go talk to those owners and say, hey, just so you know, we're gonna be issuing an enforcement order, it's gonna involve your property. Sure, it's gonna be the responsibility of the 30 Allison to take care of it, but you're gonna have to give permission to be
Got
on your property.
All right, so once you can have that conversation, we can get them all in here and deal with that.
Right.
Okay,
So
what
that's
about
where-
Somerset Heights?
I haven't heard, so I will follow up on that, sorry, I thought I would hear. But I assume he was reaching out to Levesque, and yeah, I haven't heard from him.
All right, so we got to follow up there, and we got a couple minor project letters.
Yeah, well, one was just to update you that the Billboard got approved for a building permit, so outdoor advertising, so they're going, you saw some correspondence between me and everyone. We're good now, but there was a little concern that they were talking about clearing 35,000 square feet. But we're all on the same page. It's
Good.
only 3,000 square feet, and it's immediately by the Billboard, so.
All right, so
So
that's okay.
everybody's copacetic. They may have already started work. I have not been out there since. I was out there Monday, and they hadn't started.
Got it. And what's going on at 167 Greystone?
So, this is an interesting one. So you had a storm come through like last night, similar.
Yeah,
Tree, butternut tree broke in half and fell into this guy's backyard. They're small lots. If you were to look at our GIS, it's not mapped as a wetland, but it's clearly a wetland. It's old drainage so all those houses have drains that run into the street. It's built long before we came along. He would like to have a tree company cut the wood up and then throw it back into the woods. And he would like to get permission from the person in Ohio to drop the tree as like a natural and just leave it. And so I thought, the stuff that fell in his yard, yeah, he could probably do that. And I said, just run it by you guys to see. So it's up to you whether you're okay, or if you want him to file something, that's another story. I'll send him a letter just saying, don't pile it, and, so you're smothering vegetation, don't block waterways, stuff like that.
I mean, it did fall naturally, right?
Yeah, part of it did. The other part he wants to drop because he's afraid of it dropping on his yard again. So, I mean, trees do fall in the woods, and if you leave them alone, they do what they do.
right. I mean, the fact that he wants to just let it
Yeah,
do
he
it,
doesn't
what it might
want,
otherwise do.
he doesn't want to
naturally
drive
if it fell
equipment
down.
in there, nor do we want him driving equipment
Right.
in there. So I would just say, as long as you have the landowner's permission, you don't drive equipment in there,
Yeah, that seems reasonable.
if, who knows? The tree company he hires may decide that they want to take the top that's in his yard away, so, because at that point, he hadn't hired a tree company. But I think he recently engaged a guy that we deal with constantly.
Okay, in a
So.
positive way.
No, he's good. He calls
Okay,
me.
yeah.
I caught him once in a wetland.
I just want. Okay, yeah.
I
Because
caught
we
him once
deal
in
with
a-
people in different aspects.
I caught him once in a
Good to know.
wetland, and he said, "Oh, I didn't know." And then ever since, he's very good. He calls me if he thinks, he says,
That's good.
"Yeah,
So
he's really
I'm,
good."
I'm fine with that as a minor.
Yeah,
Good.
yeah, Titan Tree. They've been very, very good to deal with.
All right. I see no
They
other
are an
business on the
awesome
list.
company.
Anything else?
Nope, I'm good.
Meeting adjourned at 6:28. Thank you, everyone.